Hello, Pisces. Welcome to Gemini season. Gemini is a really important sign for you. As you can see in your solar chart, um, Gemini holds the deepest part of the chart. This is your solar fourth house. And so I'll say this is a horoscope for any Pisces identified placements. This is a horoscope that may in some ways be more accurate in a practical way to Pisces risings, but Pisces sun, Pisces moon, any Pisces placements, listen for what resonates for you because I'm speaking to essential qualities in Pisces. Okay, so take what works and leave the rest. Um, Gemini is a really important sign for you. It is one sign on the mutable cross. Pisces is another sign on the mutable cross. Mutability is the capacity to change, to adjust, to adapt, to evolve. We are living at a time when changes and adjustments and adaptation and evolution are highly needed. And so Pisces, you are carrying something for the collective right now as a representative of mutable consciousness. And as we move into the season of Gemini, your mutability and the mutability of your life gets the volume turned up. This place in your chart is the ground underneath you. Symbolically, it is resonating with themes of home and home and family are expansive. First and foremost, I'm going to say your body is your home, and everything that you relate with is your family. That includes the microbes in your gut. That includes the oxygen that you breathe and the CO2 that you exhale and the plants that you are breathing with. It includes all of the life forms here on this amazing and unique planet. It also includes, your house or your van or your tent or wherever you happen to rest your head at whatever time of day you do that. It is a place of retreat. Where do you go to turn the outer world off and be with you? How do you land? And who do you land with? Now, how we come into family and how we come into home has everything to do with how we have been raised, right? And what we have been trained to expect home and family to feel like and look like and sound like, smell like, taste like, etc. So you are in a season of change, and your notions of home and family are changing. And as we move into the season, you are going to really start to feel that, I think, in much more embodied ways. And you have been thinking about this for at least a little bit of time. Something is rumbling for you, at least since last March. So if you think back to March of 2023, this was a period of time when Saturn came into your sign. And at least since then, I think that a lot of you have been feeling itchy. You've been like, I'm restless. I got to change. I got to do something different. In the need to change, in the restlessness, there probably is a lot of feeling of constraint because itchiness and restlessness and agitation usually is happening when we're not feeling liberated, when we're not feeling like we were where we want to be or how we want to be. And so it's like you're agitating internally right now, and how you're going to change ultimately is deeply psychological. It has a lot to do with how you exist in reciprocity and community and how you feel yourself as part of something bigger. And Gemini season is knocking on the door, being like, yoo-hoo, I have some ideas for how you could feel that way. And these aren't all the ideas that you're ever going to have. These aren't the best ideas, potentially, but there are some seeds of ideas that are coming in right now that are really important for you to pay attention to. So the first couple days of Gemini season, We are working with the full moon in Sagittarius, another one of the mutable uh, quartet. And where Gemini holds the root of your chart, Sagittarius holds the heaven. And if you think about the sky in relationship to the soil and how life on earth grows, it's like we go up, right? But life on earth also has to root down in order to grow up. Plant life does that really obviously and explicitly, but human beings and animal life does that as well. We need stability, we need family, we need rest, and we need anchoring and groundedness in our own bodies and beings if we're going to go out there and do stuff. And so this is a full moon that is really highlighting this kind of polarity for you. You need a life that supports you on the inside and in the depth of your being and in the ground of your being so that you can go out and be brilliant on the outside. Later this year, in Sagittarius season, we are going to also have a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. And so some of the things that are coming up around this full moon might be themes that you are revisiting later in the year with that retrograde phase. And the feeling that I'm getting is like little seeds are being sprinkled in the soil right now with this full moon, and maybe later in the year they're starting to grow or you're tending them in a different way, right? You need to go in and like rearrange your garden or something like that. Um, so what do I have to offer for you right now? Be generous with your foundation. Be generous with your foundation. The more that you root, the more that you rise. If you are looking to rise and that's where your sights are, and you're like, I got to go out there, I got to get that thing, I got to, get that money, I got to get that job, I got to be that person in the world, and da 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 da, you are going to get dizzy, you're going to feel ungrounded. It's like, no. If you want to go out there, go down and then out, right? Like this rooting pathway. It moves down and then spreads out. And in the feeling of that, and the feeling that I'm having in my body of that for you, it's like, who are you networked with? Who are your allies? Who are your comrades? Who are you connected with in like tertiary ways? And how do you make those connections stronger? And in whatever it is that you are doing out there, you are best supported for work right now out in the world. And this could mean a lot of things. This could mean your career. It could mean what you're doing with your retirement years, It could mean how you are a parent. It could mean how you are another kind of family member for younger generations. It could mean like the example or the possibilities that you bring forward in the world, what you're working for in your investment. It can also mean career. My feeling is that the thing that you want to do is strengthen root networks. Some of you, that's literal, is what I'm getting. Okay, not all of you, but some of you are literally people and you're like, it's in the soil, like I'm a mycologist and I work with root networks, and you're like, yes, this is it, right? So think about it as a symbol, think about it expansively. If you're not a mycologist, if you're not working to heal soil, if you're not thinking about like mycelial pathways of actual mycelium, how do those become metaphors for the things that you are doing? That's thriving. That's abundance. That's going to allow you to be so well resourced and vital and connected and like energized. And this is what we need you to feel, because with Saturn in your sign and Neptune in your sign, some of y'all are depleted, or you're like in this space where you're like, I cannot go on in the same way anymore. because it is depleting. It's boring. It's sucking the life out of you. It's sucking the life out of the earth. And you're like, I can't do that anymore. And so we need you to like be able to hydrate yourself and get more nourishment and get more breath and get more space. And how are you going to do that? You're going to do that by interconnecting, by linking, by making contact, by having conversations, by getting people and more than people, right? Like to come together, to work together. Getting into the month of May. Did I say this already? Right before we get into May, Jupiter is moving into, I did not say this. Jupiter is moving into Gemini on the 25th of May. Sorry, my months were off there for a second. So on the 25th of May, Jupiter is moving into Gemini. This is super important. Okay, this is another big emphasis in this part of your chart because Jupiter is going to be here for a whole year until June of 2025. And Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. So especially for those of you who are Pisces risings, this is your chart ruler, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, like Jupiter is a very important planet for you. And so Jupiter is a gift giver. Sometimes Jupiter is called the Santa Claus of the zodiac. It wants to bring you abundance. So as Jupiter moves into Gemini, everything that I just said, turn the volume up, okay? It's like not just Gemini season, it's the whole next year until June of 2025. You have so much support to do everything, like all the things that I was just saying, anything that it made you think about, go in that direction. Okay, then as we get out of May and into the month of June, the couple days around that month transition, we have the last quarter square, so fourth quarter moon phase starting in Pisces on the 30th of May. And that is that's a particularly kind of tense moment in your chart, and it feels like a breakthrough moment. And so I want to say that, you know, especially from that full moon to the last quarter, I think a lot of you have like, wow, like a lot of energy coming in. And for some of you, that's going to feel really discombobulating. It might feel like you're actually having a breakdown. A lot of times it's breakdown to breakthrough. So if you're feeling really pressed and like fucked up, don't worry. I think that by the time we get to the new moon on June 6th, like you've gone through a thing that has really done some alchemical reconfiguring in your brain. But this last quarter on May 30th is it's kind of a doozy. And for some of you, it's going to feel super exciting. It's going to feel really activating, really motivating, like a big idea energy, big conversation energy. For some of you, it might feel like you are hitting against walls, especially moving towards it, right? Like it's like you're in this place where there could be frustration, there could be agitation. It could feel like you are at your wit's end. You also might be having conversations or exchanges with people that are driving you nuts. And one of the things about some of the things that I said a moment ago in terms of where you're going and this feeling of you need to root, you need to connect, you need to like diversify, you need to like pull in connections from different places. One of the things about that is conflict, right? Because, you know, great, you know, connection, yay, community, cool. And then you got peopling, right? Being people, being their being them stubborn selves with their different ideas, their different ways of doing things, and like, you know, they're ignorant asses, whatever. But it's like you too, you know, you're also people. And sometimes like you just are going to get into it with people. And I think that where you're moving towards and what's coming up for you in this next year actually really requires you to up-level your communication capacities. You have been up-leveling them, I want to say. You've been in a process for, I think, the last year with Jupiter in your third house about up-leveling your communication, your thinking, your mind. your perception, and you have also more work to do. And I think a lot of you are really needing to refine your capacity for debate. And training for debate, you have to be able to fight both sides. Like if you're going to be on a debate team, you've got to be able to fight for and against the thing that you're debating. And that's training that probably everybody would benefit from getting, because a lot of us are really convinced about our own ideas being right, but we don't take the time to consider the arguments of the other side. And there might be good reasons, right? We might be listening, looking, being like, you don't have an argument. Your argument is a pile of poop. But you know what? Where people are coming from in terms of their perspective has meaning for them. And if we cannot humble ourselves, soften ourselves, expand ourselves to try and grapple with the meaning that they're making, we're not going to be able to build bridges, and we're going to just stay in the same old arguments forever. So there is something that's feeling really important right now about you learning to communicate differently. This has been something important for you for a while. I've been talking about it in your horoscopes for a while, but it's reaching a different level right now. And I think that it is essential for the kind of growth that you want in your life that you learn to communicate differently. And part of this requires you to let go of the world in the way that you think the world is, and to like allow your ideas of reality to morph and shift. I'm going to pause for a moment and plug the Nebula Lab, which is a experimental space that Embodied Astrology hosts, and it is facilitated by Gabs 404, who is a Brazilian artist and astrologer. And they are working with the influence of Neptune in your sign at the anaretic degree. You can see Neptune right at the end of Pisces, about to leave that space and go into Aries. It will move into Aries with Saturn in 2026. It'll start to inch in 2025. And this influence is about reality changing in really powerful and remarkable ways. We are living in a time of apocalypse. Apocalypses have happened. They are happening. Multiple apocalypses have happened and are happening. But on a global level, in terms of how many people are coherent and participating in this apocalypse, this is like a very unique moment in terms of human consciousness, and reality is changing. And we don't know how reality is changing right now, but we can shape it. We can participate with it. We can pour our all into creating a future that includes what we want it to include. And that's what Gabs is holding space for in the Nebula Lab. Through a very creative and astrological approach, they're going to be working specifically with photography and thinking about how imagery, photo, video, really news, right, media, shape our ideas and perceptions of reality. And so the feeling that I'm getting is like, go spend some time in the Nebula Lab and play around with actually imaging and mapping what the world could look like. Because you need a mental concept of it. And I think that you want to play with that concept. You want to not be rigid about it. You want to not be depressed about it. You want to not doom spiral about it. And sometimes maybe you have to represent it for yourself so that you can see what you're imagining, so that you can play inside of what you're imagining, so that you can have a possibility model that you can get embodied with. First week of June, we're moving towards this new moon in Gemini. So especially for those of you who have placements in middle of Pisces, like around the middle degrees, second decan of Pisces, 10 to 20 degrees, this is a new moon that is definitely loud one, right? This is a real loud new moon for you. And this new moon to me is loudly yelling at you to go into like down and in, down and in, down and in. And the feeling that I'm getting here is there's actually a lot of messages that want to come through for you right now. There's a lot of guidance, there's a lot of inspiration, there's a lot of ideas. And in order for you to hear and listen and make sense of, and actually hear the ones that are the right, because there's a lot of noise. And it's like some of the chatter is it's not that it's wrong, but it might be that if you're moving too fast, you're on your own program of meaning making and you're not actually hearing what is being called for you. Because a lot of us are in this time right now of consciousness where there's a lot of new possibilities and a lot of new ideas and a lot of new impulses, but we live in material forms that take time to change. And there's a particular kind of danger and precarity in existence right now where it's like we're taking new ideas and putting them into the old patterns. And so it's like, with things like AI, artificial intelligence could be amazing. It could be so supportive for the planet and for us. But if we continue to like take technology and turn it into weaponry and like mass media manipulation, we're taking a new idea and making it do the same thing. And so the same thing is just going to get worse. It's just going to get stronger. And all of us individually are also capable of doing that. It's like you can get a new idea and you're like, oh my God, I need to root and I need to network. But then your body has also been conditioned by white supremacist capitalist patriarchy and individualism and then it's like you go into the network and the community with the same old patterns running, and then you wonder why you're still lonely. So go down and in, go down and in. As we move towards the new moon on June 6th, get quiet, take a nap, lay down every single day. Give yourself time and space to rest and listen. Super, 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 super important. Then we go into this period of time for the next week. So until the second quarter, which is going to be in Virgo, also mutable energy, second quarter, where there's all this back and forth between lost you there, go back, between what's happening in Gemini and what's happening in Pisces. And what's happening in Gemini and what's happening in Pisces is like, it's like, how do new ideas take form? How does the dream come into the conversations? How do our imaginations become reality? And we have to be fierce and fiercely protective of our imaginal capacity, because the world, the human-made world, the world of programming, right, that we're trying to get out of, this is a world that is highly invested in numbing us, in disconnecting us from our own intuition, from our sensitivity, from our relationships, from our psychic capacities. This is a world that is totally invested in occupying our brain space so that we are just passive consumers. And what better way to do that than through fear, right? And trauma and this kind of like, no, you can't hope for anything, you can't imagine anything. All you can do is just walk the party line. Don't be like that. Don't do that right now. You have to fight for your, hearing the Beastie Boys, fight for your right to rest, right? And to imagine. Fight for your sanity. And your sanity is your relational embeddedness. Your sanity is your capacity to go outside and breathe and connect with nature and feel your body and take time with other people and appreciate one another. And there's something that I feel like it's like you're trying to make space for this new way of being. And it's not about going out. it's about going in, and it's about being that. It's about being that change and letting it really come forward in your relationships. And this becomes increasingly important in the last week of Gemini season. And as we move towards the solstice and beginning of Cancer season, relationships are the place where this alchemy is happening. Relationships are the place where the most fertile potentiality of creation is coming forward. And in relational space, I think that a big value that you want to like keep coming back to is, how do we feel at home together? I don't remember who authored this right now. It's a meme, it's in my head, and I'm going to get it wrong. I'm paraphrasing it, but it was something like, um, the kind of person I want to be is somebody who feels so safe in my body that anybody who comes into proximity with me immediately feels safe in their body. Right? Like, I want to do so much work in my own nervous system that when other people get near me, they just feel a vibe and they're like, oh, and then they can be more intelligent and more spacious in their nervous systems. I feel like this is the goal. Um, okay. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to say that I think Embodied Astrology has a lot to offer you in Gemini season. We have a lot of community spaces that's actually really at the core of what EA is about. Um, I'm here offering horoscopes and readings and things like that, but actually my interest is, how do we use astrology to understand ourselves and our interconnections more deeply? And how do we, at any level of our understanding of astrology, feel empowered to access it as strategy, as resource, as connecting place. Throughout the year, we have some really interesting offerings, including later this year, a series called Constellations of Conflict. It's still being planned. I don't have that many details for you right now, but I can tell you that in November and December, near this Sagittarius situation I was talking to you about earlier, um, my colleague Ramon Gabrieloff Parrish is going to be leading this, but it's going to be multiple people facilitating. And we are working with conflict transformation, and how to actually like be in it in ways that are generative, in ways that are creative, in ways that allow us to grow and bloom in new directions. In every single month, we have full moon offerings with Janata Petrus. Janata is an author and a playwright and a Cancer, and she just holds this wonderful space for people to come and be people who are creative, right? And anybody can be there. You don't have to identify as an artist. All you need to be is a person, because people are inherently creative and life is inherently creative, but we live in a time when they're trying to tell us that it's not, and that we need to be machines, right? But we're not, we're life. And so her space is about holding space for staying creative, getting more creative, advocating for creativity in all the different pockets of our lives. Sherry Taylor is another one of my like genius colleagues, and she is working with Saturn in Pisces. Her work with Saturn in Pisces is now in its second year. Last year, she taught a series called Gravity and Grace. This year, her work is Solve e Coagula. That means to dissolve and to congeal. And she is really exploring the parts of Saturn's mythology that deviate and disrupt kind of like more Western European Greek mythology of Saturn, which positions Saturn as, first of all, a patriarch, second of all, a drying substance and like rigid and oppressive and things like that. But Saturn in its deep mythology is totally like trickster, creative, juicy stuff, and has really, really deep integrity, and is very deeply invested in making space for everybody so everybody gets what they need. And I think that's a lot of the work that you are doing right now, or that you're trying to do in your own way, is how do people get what they need? And in that, how do you get what you need, right? And this brings me back to the beginning of the reading, which is to grow up, root down, right? To be who you want to be, to get what you think you need, invest in collectiveness, right? Communality. communality. I'm gonna leave it there. Pisces, I'm wishing you all the best in Gemini season and beyond. Bye for now.